Many U.S. blacks moving to the south, reversing trend. The percentage of nation's black population living in the south has hit its highest point in a half-century, according to census data released Thursday. As younger and more educated black residents move out of declining cities in the northeast and midwest in search of better opportunities. The share of population growth that has occurred in the South over the past decade, the highest since 1910 before the great migration of blacks to the North, has upended some long-held assumptions. Both Michigan and Illinois, whose cities have rich black cultural traditions, showed an overall loss of blacks for the first time, said William Frey, the chief demographer at the Brookings Institution. Japan's tsunami toll tops 10,000 2 weeks after quake. The death toll from Japan's 11 March earthquake and tsunami has topped 10,000, police say. More than 17,440 people are listed as missing and 200,775 as injured. Many hundreds of thousands of people remain homeless, short of food, water and shelter, after the magnitude 9.0 quake shattered communities. At the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant, work is continuing to find the source of escaping vapor, which has caused fears about food and water's purity. Engineers are hoping to restart generators to run vital cooling equipment for nuclear roads in the 6th reactor plant at Fukushima. 2 workers at the Fukushima Daiichi plant were taken to hospital after being exposed to high levels of radiation. The government has ordered new safety measures at the plant after it emerged the workers had not been wearing the correct protective boots and had ignored a radiation alarm. The Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, which runs the nuclear plant, has said a cold shutdown may still take a month. Gurkha who defeated Taliban attack gets bravery medal. A Gurkha single-handedly fought off an attack by at least a dozen Taliban insurgents has been awarded Britain's second highest medal for bravery. Acting Surgeon Deeprapasad Poon, 31, exhausted all his ammunition and resorted to using a tripod of his machine gun to repel the militants. Describing himself as a very lucky guy, he said he was very proud to be given the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross. A total of 136 UK servicemen and women are being honored for posthumously. Professor K Janardhanan, former head of the Department of DCMS, passed away. Professor Janardhanan, reader in the Department of Commerce and Management Studies of University of Calicut, died of acute myocardial infarction. He was chairing one of the sessions of a seminar on dynamics of bank management. Suddenly he felt the chest pain and was removed to a hospital. On the way, on 22nd to the hospital, he breathed his last. He was 54, survived by wife and 2 young children, studying in Bhavans Vidyashram, Chelembra. Sri Lanka protests against Libya airstrikes. Hundreds of people have protested against Western-led airstrikes in Libya outside the United Nations headquarters in Sri Lanka. Demonstrators shouted anti-Western slogans, waved placards and burned tires near the UN compound. The protesters were organized by political parties closely allied to Sri Lanka's president. Correspondents say relations between Libya and Sri Lanka have been extremely close in recent years. Libya was one of the countries which supported Sri Lanka when the UN Human Rights Council sought a resolution against Sri Lanka for alleged war crimes in the wake of the country's 26-year-old civil war. Pakistan crop shortage warning. Lowering wheat prices would create food shortage in Pakistan and encourage smuggling, officials say, responding to criticism from the UN. On Wednesday, the UN's Food Relief Agency said the government set prices too high and malnutrition was rising. But an official at Pakistan's food ministry told the BBC farmers would simply switch to more lucrative crops if wheat prices went down. Devastating floods across Pakistan in 2010 damaged acres of arable land. We'll move on to the business world. China to overtake US and dominate trade by 2030. China will overtake the US and dominate global trade by 2030, a leading accountancy firm says. China's global trade is set to surge past the US by 2030, according to a report by PricewaterhouseCoopers (PwC). Currently, China's international trade is worth $2.21 trillion. Compared with the $2.66 trillion for the US. China was confirmed as the world's second biggest economy this year, overtaking Japan. According to the report by PwC, the coming years will see global trade undergo fundamental change as emerging economies such as China and India begin to dominate the top sea and air freight routes. Its chief economist Justin Glynn said on Wednesday that if China continued to grow at an annual rate of 8%, it would be twice the size of US economy in 20 years. China is responsible for much of the world's production of material goods, helping to maintain the country's position as an economic superpower. Welcome to the world of science. Curry powder molecule is cheap sensor for explosives. The main chemical in curry spice, turmeric, could be the basis of cheap explosive detectors, say researchers. The curcumin molecule is already well known in medicine for its anti-cancer and antioxidant properties. Now, the research presented at an American Physical Society meeting suggests it could replace more complex solutions to spot explosives like TNT, trinitrotoluene. As it gathers molecules of explosive material in air, changes its light-emitting properties, and can be measured. This fluorescent spectroscopy is already employed in a wide array of sensing and analysis techniques. Illuminating some chemicals causes to re-emit light of a different color, sometimes for extended periods, an effect exploited in, for example, glow-in-dark materials. The intensity of this re-emitted light can change in different molecules, bind to the fluorescent ones, and that is how sensing techniques exploit the effect. And in sports, Cricket World Cup, India knocked Aussies out of World Cup. Yuvraj Singh played a match-winning innings as India, roared on by their supporters in Ahmedabad, knocked holders Australia out of the World Cup. Rocky Ponting won for his first century for 13 months, guided a misfiring Australian battling line up to 266. It was target that looked with India's compass, as Sachin Tendulkar's 53 said, the host of In Fine Style. Gautam Gambhir added 50 before Yuvraj's 57 not out, so India to 5-wicket win with 14 balls to spare. The result ended an extraordinary run of success for the Aussies in the World Cup. Beaten finalists in 1996 when Ponting was a junior player, they won the next 3 tournaments, an imposing run that included a run of 34 matches without defeat. But their fallibility was shown up by Pakistan, who beat them in their final group match of this tournament, and India's strong batting lineup proved too powerful for Ponting's men. And before we close today's bulletin of news analysis, let's have a recap of the main points. French jet destroys Libya plane. Syria, unrest, government pledges political reforms. NATO agrees to take command of no-fly zone in Libya. Elizabeth Taylor at Lustrous Pinnacle of Hollywood, Glamour. Many US blacks moving to South, a reversing trend. Japan tsunami tore tops 10,000 2 weeks after quake. And there we end today's bulletin of news analysis. Be with us in the coming weeks too. Thank you.